In this video, you will learn how to sketch and interpret graphs of normally distributed data. Recall that a normally distributed data set creates a bell-shaped curve with a mean value represented as the middle point of the curve, and with half of the data below the mean and half the data above the mean. When data is normally distributed, certain percentages of the data can be assumed to fall within specific intervals. The widths of these intervals are multiples of the standard deviation. Because of this, the x-axis is labeled to show the mean and values equal to the mean plus or minus multiples of the standard deviation. For example, if this graph represented a set of data with a mean of 80 and a standard deviation of 6, the middle of the graph would be 80. And at each interval line, we would add or subtract the standard deviation of 6. Let's sketch another graph based on this scenario. A school nurse recorded the heights of 50 male freshman students. He found that the heights were normally distributed with a mean of 66 inches and a standard deviation of 3 inches. Construct a graph representing this data. We know the data is normally distributed, so the graph will be a bell curve. Because the mean is 66, you know the value at the center of the graph. You also know that the standard deviation is 3. Subtract 3 units for each tick mark below the mean, and add 3 units for each tick mark above the mean. This graph now represents the heights recorded by the school nurse. Let's look at a case in which you are given a graph of normally distributed data and must identify the mean and standard deviation from it. A car owner recorded the number of miles she drove each week for 52 weeks. She found that the weekly totals could be represented by the graph shown below. What is the average number of miles she drove in a week, and what is the standard deviation of the data she gathered? This graph represents the miles driven each week by a car owner. The middle of the graph has an x value of 214. So the mean is 214. She drove an average of 214 miles per week. The x-axis is divided into intervals that are each 5 units wide. So the standard deviation, or sigma, for this data set is 5 miles. Now you know more about how to sketch, interpret, or choose the best graphs that represent normally distributed data. Thanks for watching.